Hello, welcome back to another video on astrology. In this video, I'll be talking to you about the upcoming solar eclipse that's going to happen on June 21st. In terms of Indian Standard Time, it will be around 12:10 when the peak of the solar eclipse is going to happen. You all know by now that eclipses happen at regular intervals of time. It happens once in 6 months, and so you wonder why so much hue and cry. You will hear the scientists speaking about it, or the journalists speak about it a lot, and adding to that, we have the astrologers doing a lot more videos with regard to the eclipse. Even though this is quite regular, each time it happens, we as human beings are very curious to know what kind of effects it can have, both from the scientific point of view or from the view of astrology. This eclipse is very special because even for those people who did not know the power of an eclipse, they have realized by now that there is something that happens to human beings following an eclipse, and that's because the December 26th, 2019 eclipse has been linked to the pandemic that's happening in this world right now. So from astrology point of view, people are very anxious to know, will this eclipse make a change? So what is inauspicious about eclipses? Just let me give you another situation. You remember Akshaya Tritiya, when the sun is exalted and the moon is exalted at the same time in the sky. It is a special time called Akshaya Tritiya, when everybody in India celebrates this in terms of so many activities. Whereas the opposite is what's happening during an eclipse. The sun and the moon, they get into trouble. And who are the troublemakers? And this is none other than Rahu and Ketu. Every time there is a full moon, you don't see an eclipse. And every time there is a new moon, you don't see an eclipse. You need to have Rahu Ketu axis falling on the same axis of the sun moon. So there are several astrological facts that you should know about. One is that when the new moon Tithi starts, which is called the Amavasya Tithi, the eclipse does not happen. It is always when the Amavasya is about to be over and the next Tithi, the Pratipad, is about to start. At that junction, the peak of the eclipse happens. And at that junction, if you cast a horoscope for that time, you will notice that the sun and the moon are exactly in the same position in terms of degrees, minutes and seconds in the horoscope. The eclipse from the point of view of an astrologer is very important because it involves the sun and the moon, and sun is the soul and moon is the mind, and sun may be the right eye and moon may be the left eye, and sun and moon are the luminaries, the light source for this world. In the daytime it is the sun and the night it is the moon. So we hold the sun and the moon as very dear. But what happens in a eclipse? Such big luminaries, the mighty sun and its reflection, the moon, these two sources of light is blocked by Rahu and Ketu. This is considered as a bad omen in the sky whenever the light gets blocked. Light is very much considered auspicious, and of course you all know the power of light. If light is not there, what would happen? There will be a lot more diseases, and so during eclipses the diseases can come. You have the bacteria like anaerobic bacteria which thrive very well in darkness. So in darkness the disease spreads. Even in the vampire movie, they will show you that the vampire is very active during the night time, and as soon as the sunlight comes in, it just disappears. So Rahu and Ketu is somewhat similar to the poison or the snake-like things in the sky, or maybe in our lives. So you also know that Rahu and Ketu means disobedience and confusions and cheating. And for this we have the story of the churning of the ocean for extracting the Amrita, where the Devas are all on one side and Rahu is on the other side. And Rahu has the guts to disguise himself and come over to the Devas side, the god side, and it is the sun and the moon that they reveal to Vishnu, who has by then taken on the avatar of Mohini, where she is distributing the nectar of immortality. And while Rahu is just about to drink the nectar by which Rahu would have become immortal, the sun and the moon warn Vishnu, the Mohini avatar, and Vishnu uses his chakra to cut off the head of Rahu, but it was too late. By then, Rahu had consumed the Amrita, and so he became immortal, and he also entered our horoscopes from that time onwards. It's easier for you to learn astrology if you know some of the important stories that are associated with astrology. So Rahu is considered as the fear factor in our lives, something that kind of haunts us, especially because we have done something extraordinarily negative in our past lives. It is a kind of haunting of the past misdeeds. Astronomers know of something called the Saros cycle, Saros, Saros cycle, and this has been used by the ancient civilizations also. It is a few more days than 18 years. Maybe it's approximately 18 years. And incidentally, you know that Rahu in the Mahadasha scheme has been allotted 18 years. It's so strange that the Saros cycle also matches up the 18 years period of Rahu. And what do they do with the Saros cycle is that once you know this cycle, one cycle has the same type of predictable the eclipses, and if you have the table of all the cycles that has happened before, it is quite easy to predict the next eclipse even without doing any calculations. It's so easy because it comes at regular intervals. So the main focus of this video is what has changed from the last eclipse. Are we going to find some relief from the ongoing war-like situation that the COVID-19 coronavirus has started? To understand this, we need to recall what had happened earlier. During the previous solar eclipse of December 2019, we are told by most astrologers on YouTube that Rahu entered Rahu Nakshatra. That means the poison enters the poison Nakshatra. Arudra means the fearsome, something that is in great anger. And Rahu very much represents dangerous diseases. And so when Rahu entered Rahu Nakshatra, that had triggered the onset of this pandemic. Of course, there are so many other reasons also for this. Maybe Saturn is also involved. But at least we know that the prime planet for the virus attack is definitely Rahu. Saturn is the one that makes it a pandemic. So Saturn also cooperated with Rahu. So each time the next eclipse happens, the Rahu is not found in the same nakshatra. It goes one step backwards. And so last time it was in Arudra nakshatra, whereas this time on June 21st it will be in Mrigashira nakshatra. The nature of Mrigashira is quite different. Mrigashira is believed to be a milder, a softer nakshatra that is more often related to arts, music and dance, and something to do with the nicer side of life, contrary to what Rahu is often associated with. So the nakshatra devata, which is called the deity for every nakshatra, there is a separate deity, and the nakshatra devata of Arudra is Rudra, Lord Shiva. It means the fierce one. And the nakshatra devata of Mrigashira is none other than the moon, Soma. So you find that you expect that there is a world of a difference between the two. So on the date of eclipse, where is Rahu? Rahu has just entered Mrigashira, and so Rahu will be in Mrigashira 4th pada. And on the opposite side, because Ketu will be always 180 degrees on the other side, Ketu will be going through Mula Nakshatra, the 2nd pada. That's the axis. That's where the axis is. The sun this time is very close to Rahu. If you have a software, you can go through all the past eclipses and you will find that the sun may not be this close to Rahu. So the poison element, the affliction of the sun by Rahu is quite high this time. Let's conclude in this way. Life is all about comparison. When compared to the previous eclipse, when we had a group of planets all aligned with Arudra, Rudra Nakshatra, the negative energies were so high. So it will not be the same as it was. It will not be so challenging when compared to the December 26th eclipse. So that in no way means that this eclipse can be taken lightly, because this is only in comparison. It can still be considered challenging because of the fact that Rahu is very close to the sun. So the good news is the power of the pandemic is definitely going to come down. An eclipse is an eclipse. So it might have something else to do. For example, here you see in the chart on the date of eclipse, you see that Mars is directly aspecting with its destructive fourth house aspect on the eclipse set of planets, because now we have four grahas, all of them in Gemini. So Venus is stepped back and she's not part of this stellium, but Mars is looking at this combination so strongly. Whenever malefics are aspecting a combination, that the problem would only increase. And then we always look out for where Jupiter is. And we find Jupiter is in no mood to help, because Jupiter is debilitated and also not aspecting this combination. So it will be like only Mars is aspecting it. So whenever Mars alone aspects this combination of eclipse, the problem might slightly shift to other types of problems like unrest in terms of fights and violence and mob violence, you can say, and also something to do with warlike situations. If you refer to Brihat Parashara Horashastra Volume 2, you will come to know that the Maharshi has allotted a separate chapter for describing what would happen if a person is born on an eclipse or during an eclipse. So he says that the person will be physically unwell, which is health problems, and then he also hints that this person will have to go through a lot of financial difficulties. There will be some kind of suffering or during most part of their lives, and the fear of death, mrityu bhayam, which we are already undergoing because of this virus. So the easy way out to find out what's the remedy for every time an eclipse happens is to read this chapter, because he has given the remedies in case a person is born, and that must be the same thing that we need to do when an eclipse happens on a particular nakshatra. Wherever it is happening, exactly, Mrigashira, the entire nakshatra of Mrigashira and the nakshatra of Mula. This will be the point, and Mrigashira 4 and Mula 2nd Pada will be the most affected by this eclipse. Those of you are familiar with astrology, you know that if a planet occupies a sign or a house, it spreads its effects 15 degrees on either side. So if you consider that, you know that from Mrigashira 4th Pada you could go forward and backwards 15 degrees, and that entire area you can shade it with highlighter and say this is the zone where all the people born with their moon in this particular space in the sky, they are likely to be affected. But obviously those who are born in Mrigashira 4th Pada and Mula 2nd Pada, they will be the most affected people due to this eclipse. So the procedure for remedy has been given in BPHS. What is being recommended is that you need to make an idol that represents the nakshatra in which the eclipse has happened, and also you need to make one idol for the moon and one idol for the sun, and so you must read this chapter. But in this case you don't have to make one for the moon, because anyway the nakshatra devata of Mrigashira it itself is the moon. So for the rest of the procedure you may have to contact your temple priest to help you complete the puja in case you are a Mrigashira nakshatra. But if people who are born in Mula nakshatra, if they are asking how much will it affect them, definitely it will not be that bad, mainly because the entire intensity is always where in a solar eclipse where the sun is where the problem is likely to be more, and not on the opposite side. For some of you who believe in the power of mantras, then you should learn the mantra for Rahu, the Bija mantra for Rahu. Om Brahm Brim Brahm Saha Rahave Namaha. Om Shram Shreem Shram Saha Ketave Namaha. They're basically very simple mantras. And if you can look up the internet, I'm sure you will be able to find a lot more mantras for Rahu and Ketu. Though the eclipse actually affects the whole world, which means that if any child is born during that eclipse, when the peak of eclipse is happening anywhere in the world, the horoscope will show that the sun, moon, and the Rahu, Ketu, they're all on the same axis. There's no difference about that. So it does not mean that in a place where the eclipse is not seen, those people are not subject to the negative energies of this eclipse. In spite of that, you should also keep an eye on where the shadow of the moon travels on the earth. It passes somewhere around Saudi Arabia and through Pakistan, and then enters India, and the middle of the shadow falls on the capital of India, and then it moves across the Himalayas, entering China, and then just goes away like that. So you find that this zone might be the most affected, and we could use this as a warning, because even in the 1918 in Spanish flu, though it was called Spanish flu, more number of people died in India than anywhere else in the world. Let's take this as a hint from the heavens that we all, at least in India, all of us should be extremely careful if we are living in the area where the shadow passes through on the earth. So we also know that Mars, the violent planet, is looking at this combination. So we need to ensure safety on the borders. Rahu always represents the hiding enemy, because Rahu is invisible. Rahu is also known as the foreigner, the outsider. The standard approach in astrology is when a nakshatra is afflicted by an eclipse, the trinal nakshatras also get afflicted. In this case, when Mars nakshatra Mrigashira is afflicted, you also expect Chitra and Dhanishta to also be under pressure. But this is a very generalized way of using the knowledge of the stars. It is better to, but however, let's admit it that the maximum influence will only be on Mrigashira. Another way to use this information about the eclipse is to know where is your Lagna, the ascendant, and just place the eclipse in your horoscope and see in which house it falls. For example, if it falls in the house number 6, then there could be 6th house related problems like disease, deaths, and enemies suddenly flaring up in your life. Suppose if it is in the 4th house, then something to do with your mother may happen, something to do with your home, etc. can happen once you know the basic attributes of each house. So if it is in the 2nd house, the pressure will be entirely on financial well-being. Let's say if you are a Taurus Lagna person and therefore the 2nd house is Gemini, where the eclipse is happening. So the 2nd house is under negative energies, and so you can expect problems in matters of wealth or family. How long is the effect of an eclipse likely to last? The effect of an eclipse is likely to last anywhere from up to 3 months or a maximum up to 6 months. But according to most classical textbooks, it is the first 3 months. Very intense. Is that the good side of every eclipse? Yes, there is. This is a wonderful time to pay back part of your loan if you have some loan that has been troubling you for a long time. So make a part payment on the principal amount, and you should expect that the loan will be wiped off as early as possible. Also, those who have Pitru doshas in your horoscope, like for example, the 9th house is already under the influence of Rahu or Ketu, maybe one more graha is there, maybe the sun is already there, or maybe you had an eclipse in the 9th house. That means you have a Pitru dosha, and one of the best times to worship your Pitrus is during an eclipse time. Since we know that the eclipse covers health problems, the best mantra is obviously Mahamrityunjaya mantra, Om Trayambagam Yajamage Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanan Mrityur Mukshiya Mamritat. That's a very standard mantra for which is called the Mahamrityunjaya mantra. Every time you are having, every time you go through a health problem, this is the best mantra. This one comes after Gayatri. Gayatri is supposed to be the foremost amongst all mantras. It is advisable that you also chant the Gayatri mantra. For those of you who are going through financial difficulties may flare up during this time, for which the suggestion is that you worship Lord Kubera in the prescribed manner. And if you know the 108 names of Mahalakshmi, for example, it starts like Om Prakritya Nama, Om Vikritya Nama, and the last one is Om Bhuvaneshwari Nama, 108 names of Mahalakshmi. You can download this from the internet, and you can also recite the mantra Sarva Mangala Mangalye Shive Sarvartha Sadhike Charanye Triyambige Gauri Narayani Namostude. The Sodashi mantra can be chanted during the peak of the eclipse. This is a very powerful mantra. The details of the mantra will be given towards the end of this video, and I'll also be putting it up on the description below. Because of the extreme amount of poison and the sin energies present during this time, conception should be avoided, and physical union should be avoided. If a child is conceived during such a negative time, then the child born will be a major source of concern to the parents and sometimes to the world. Above all, it's important to note that eclipses comes and goes, and the most important thing is that God is great, and for all those people who pray regularly, are very kind to people, very generous in giving, and have a lot of love and compassion for fellow beings and the creatures of this world, surely you will be protected. In short, if you do what God wants you to do, then surely you will be in the good books of God, and God Almighty will definitely protect you against the negative energies of Rahu and Ketu during the eclipse. We have come to the end of this video. In case you have any doubts, please type them out in the comment section, and whenever I find the time, I'll answer them for you. And see you soon in my next video.